Hello and welcome to the first video of a brand new series where I will endeavor to create a survival game in GameGuru Max. So this was actually a requested series, and I asked everybody, would you be interested in something like this? And there seemed to be a high level of interest. So I said, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm down. So we'll give it a try. Now I've never tried to create a survival game like this before. So this is going to be a first for me, maybe for some of you as well. But I took some time to really think it through and plan it out because I wanted to make sure that I had the best chance to succeed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'll succeed. So we will try. So while I was thinking through this series, I asked myself a couple of things. The first thing is, what is the setting, right? Am I in a forest? Am I in a desert? And maybe I'm in a snowy environment. And I really kind of thought through what kind of assets that I already had or what I was likely to be able to come across. Since I'm not a 3D artist, I can't just make whatever assets I want. I'm dependent on whatever it is that I can find or I can purchase. And that really did limit my choices quite a bit. But as I thought through the different environments that we could use, I was also thinking about the enemies that we might face, right? So in a snowy environment, I might face something like a polar bear. Well, I don't have an animated polar bear that has, all the animations and things, and I don't know where I would find one. For example, right? Or, the forest, you could imagine like deer and things like that. So, and in a forest environment, you might expect to have maybe a bow and arrow or something. Again, we don't really have that luxury right now. So that limited my choices quite a bit. And there was also already a desert style survival game being made, I believe, and I didn't want to step on any toes, so I ruled that out as well. So then as I thought through what I had, I kind of arrived at the cave as the ideal environment for survival game for our purposes because it's an enclosed area. So it's a finite area. I don't have to worry about an open world environment or anything, too large. I can kind of control not only the scale of the environment, but also the path of the player, which is really, really convenient. Plus, in terms of what kind of creatures we might interact with, there's a limited number of creatures that you're going to find in a cave. Now, originally, I was going to use the little rats, the little sewer rats that come with GameGuru Max, but I discovered quickly that those characters they don't drop items like a normal NPC would, right? So any NPC that has NPC behavior, right? So like for instance, melee attack or anything like that would have the ability to have a drop system that's already part of the behavior. So you could use something like that, or if you used NPC item drop, you could get items to drop off a particular enemy as well. But if the enemy is cloned, which in this case it kind of will be because a survival game is generally kind of open-ended and might take a while to play through, then that behavior doesn't work on cloned entities. So that ruled that out. So as I thought through my options, I realized, well, there are rats. They're just giant rats. They're rats from various DLCs that are available to the community. And so we'll probably just use those, and those will be our enemies essentially in the lower areas. And the reason that they'll be in the lower areas is because we need to get to the lower area in order to craft particular items that can not be found anywhere else in the cave structure. So that creates a challenge for the player. The player needs to go to this area, but there's an obstacle in the way. Not only is that enemy useful for sustenance, but also useful for getting to the materials that they ultimately need in order to escape. So that all kind of ties together nicely. There's also going to be a number of mechanics that are going to be covered in the game. Obviously, hunger and thirst are going to be essential. So there'll need to be a place where there's water, and also there'll be food, different kinds of food. Like you might find mushrooms, or you might find the rats. Like I said, I'm exploring the idea of maybe fishing, but again, that's a mechanic that doesn't technically exist right now in Max. Plus, we would need some sort of fishing device, whether that be a pole or a net or something like that. So I don't have it as we speak, so I can't promise anything, but I'm looking into that. I also want to do stamina, and stamina I think can be a useful mechanic for playing off of the hunger and the thirst, right? So if you're very hungry or very thirsty, then you're going to be weaker and you're not going to be able to move as fast, or you're not going to be able to do as much as a result. I'd like to be able to incorporate that in. And again, I'm not 100% confident that that's possible right now, or it's something that may have to be developed further. We'll see, but these are the just initial ideas, so don't hold me to everything that I say in this video. Obviously health is a thing. You want the player to have some sort of risk reward. So there's going to be a certain amount of health that can be regenerated over time or fixed via like a first aid kit or something like that. And then there'll be crafting. So you'll need to be able to craft things like tools and weapons, ultimately an explosive, so that you can blow a hole in the cave and escape. That'll be kind of the end game ideal, and that's why you got to go down to the bottom of the cave, because that's where the lava pit is. That's where the sulfur is, and so that's where they're going to be able to get the materials needed for that. Obviously, if you're going to have things like that, you're going to need an inventory system. So we'll definitely have an inventory system, not just on the player, but also the player has a backpack because they were hiking. So the player could use that as a storage place in their kind of main camp that they set up. There'll be a campfire, and there'll be cooking, obviously, and things like that. There'll be sleep systems, so they'll be able to sleep, and that'll also be able to regen health and also pass through day and night. So if it's dark and they don't want to be in the dark, they can sleep and let the time pass. So that'll require a day and night system. And because of the day and night system, I decided, like, at first I was going to make it on 3 separate levels, and each level have its own sort of purpose and unique challenges. But then I realized, well, if I'm going to do a night day cycle, it'd probably be easier to have it all in one level. So that way I only have to have the one night day cycle and not have to worry about syncing it or anything like that. And then that led me to the idea of, well, what if there were like dynamic weather, so that it could rain on occasion or something like that. That doesn't really exist in Max today, but it's something that I'm talking through with Necrum to see, is this something that's possible? I don't know yet. So again, don't hold me to anything, but we'll see. And then of course the player will need to explore around and find things, and they might find some basic resources when they're exploring the cave. So like there was previous explorers and they find a skeleton. Well, that skeleton could be a resource, right? It could be bones to be used to craft tools or weapons. It could have supplies left over from the previous expedition, and they could use those as well. So some ideas to kick around and explore. I was also kind of thinking about adding some lore to it as well, just kind of giving it a story, or maybe even teaching the player mechanics through lore. But I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to pull that off, because the way my vision worked was there would be cave paintings, and those cave paintings would give the player some ideas about crafting, and then that would kind of lead them to discover ways of doing things. But I am not an artist. I'm not a 2D artist. I am not a 3D artist. So because these assets are all just DLC assets, or they're things that I find online, I'm stuck with what I've got. I did explore the idea of making like decals, for example, and putting those on there. These the cave walls don't have any real easy flat surfaces, and so it didn't really work out the way I'd hoped. So we will put that on the back burner as an idea. All ideas are good in the initial stage, and then we can just kind of eliminate things as time goes on and we decide it's just not possible. So the way this series is going to go is this video is really just about introducing what ideas I've come up with and how the game is going to be created. And then in each video going forward, this isn't really intended to be a tutorial series. I suppose you could try to follow along if you really wanted to, but I think in this case, because I'm using DLC assets and other paid assets, it's probably not something that I'd feel comfortable making into a tutorial exactly, but I'll be explaining what I'm doing and how I'm doing it along the way, so you might learn some things from that. Mostly it's supposed to be an enjoyable experience for both of us to just see how something like this can come together and get some ideas. And, maybe you can incorporate some of the things that I do in this series into your own game. So that's the idea. So think of it more like an instructional vlog, I guess is the best way I could describe it. But that's it. That's the idea for this game series. The only other thing I'll say is that given the nature of and the scale of this project, I would not expect these episodes to come out quickly. I'm going to be working really hard in between other videos and other projects that I've got going on this project. And I'm just going to pace it really just as it comes. And so sometimes it'll be sooner, sometimes it'll be later. But just, look out for it. If you want a notification for when these videos come out, just click the bell icon and that'll let you know when a video's come out. And maybe it's one of these. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe. We'd love to have you stick around and watch the full series. And if you're excited about this series, be sure to leave me a comment or drop a like down below. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. I'm excited to get started, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.